What up, champ?
Thank you, sir. For those that don't know, we did our yearly, I think roughly yearly disc golf tournament where we play 3 rounds in 3 or 4 days, and the winner is the champ for the next 6 months ish. And man, I beat you the first 2 rounds. I just kind of took it easy on you for the last round and let you win that last one. But
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I
yeah,
already
yeah.
had the victory sealed after 2 rounds. So
I know how you are.
yep,
You
yeah,
just
I
give it
wasn't
a rap.
I wasn't trying that third day at all. But it was a fun
Uh-huh.
time. I'm glad you survived being in a red state for 4 straight days. How does it feel
Yeah.
to be back in a blue state?
It was a purple city or
Yeah,
a blue
purple state.
city.
Yeah. So you
No,
survived.
I'm saying Tulsa.
Yeah, Tulsa's kind of a purplish area, but yeah,
Yeah, it's blue, right? You guys
and
vote.
purple.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. It
So, but you
wasn't bad.
survived. Yeah, it wasn't
I
terrible.
didn't feel the MAGA squeezing me out or anything.
Yeah. Plus, the places I was taking you downtown are they're definitely more liberal areas. So,
Yeah.
I could have taken you to some little cities around Tulsa that are way more MAGA, but I spared you that. So, anyhow, you been watching any news recently? Anything jumping out at you?
I mean, it's just a nightmare. One nightmare after another.
It's a nightmare. I have to say real quick, I'm not going to stop harping on the USAID stuff because that's still going on, still in the news. I made the
Mhm.
mistake of watching Rogan recently. I don't watch a lot of Joe Rogan anymore, but he had on what's the guy's name? Weinstein, the smart guy with
Uh-huh.
curly hair.
Oh yeah, Eric.
Um, yeah, he had him on, and they were talking about USAID, and like it was. I don't think Joe is purposely doing misinformation, but I think like he's in an information bubble, so he's just telling you about all the stuff he sees all day online. He who was the guy? The guy that he said he was like, oh, I saw this post from a guy named like it was like Ken Coda the Great or something was the guy's name, and like Joe just starts reading this guy's post as if it's fact. I have no clue who Ken Coda the Great is, but like
Nope.
if you see a tweet on Twitter that's telling you stuff that you find alarming, you should probably go over to any search engine and see if you can find it's true. Um,
Yeah.
but I realized USAID is the perfect target for DOGE or Republicans because like most Americans have not been aware of what USAID does or has been doing for the past, I don't know, 30 years. So
Yep.
it's easy to spin it and be like, oh, look, we're giving all this money to like one of the things was like $11 million for, or it was $20 million for an Iraqi Sesame Street. And like when you just say that, it's easy to go, oh, well, why are we sending $20 million to Iraq for a Sesame Street? That money should be spent here. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying there, but like we learned some lessons with like Afghanistan in the 1980s. Like we helped Afghanistan beat Russia, push them out of Afghanistan, and then we just left, and we just left Afghanistan with no infrastructure whatsoever. That war with Russia had just totally no schools, no hospitals, no roads, and all the people of Afghanistan just fucking hated us for the next 2 decades until 2001 or September 11th, 2001 happened. Like we learned from that every time we go in and destroy a country or go help a country beat somebody else and the country's left destroyed, we should help them build back so that they like us. And we tried to do that with Iraq. Like we were trying to like we flattened Iraq in 2003 and
Yeah.
then again what was it? A couple of years later, we went back in there. Like we have flattened that area, and we're trying to learn from past mistakes and help them kind of rebuild in a way where they'll like us and we won't have terrorists trying to kill us. Um, One of the things he mentioned was like 11 million for like teaching Vietnam not to burn their trash, which kind of is a big deal. We have third world countries all around burning their trash that puts all kinds of toxins into the atmosphere. So
Yeah.
you can say like, oh, look at all this money we're wasting. The part that pisses me off is that there's elected representatives, congressmen who have been there for 20 years that are going, oh, I just found out that we have money going to blah, blah, blah. What was another one? 330 million going to Afghanistan to help them with their crops, to help them grow crops. Those
Mhm.
crops then go to feed most of Europe. But they act alarmed. They're like, can you believe USAID has been
Well,
doing this behind our
are we
back?
sure that that's not like poppy
Probably
seeds
is. There's
going to
probably
help with our yeah, our
There's probably
medication?
the whole opium thing. It seems like both sides have some foot in that, so maybe. But
Yeah.
the thing is, congressmen have voted every time we do a budget. you can dig through the budget and see where all this money's going. If we're giving 200 billion to USAID, there's a packet that shows where all that, the breakdown of where each bit of that money's going, and they voted for it every time. Now, for the past 2 years, Republicans haven't voted on it because they just keep doing continuing resolutions of the Nancy Pelosi budget. So they haven't
Mm,
even tried to like fix this problem on their own, and now they're complaining about it. Like, oh, look what they're doing. What you mean? Look what you voted to let them do? That's what's happened here. You vote for a budget. You in the budget it says where all this money's going. You voted for it, and now you're acting shocked that it's happening. So it's scary. And the last thing I'll say on this, because I'll talk about USAID once a week every time we talk, pretty much. But the whole theory behind USAID is it's soft power. It's gaining influence and getting other countries to like us using a soft approach. Hey, let us help you build this. Let us help you with that. And that way, those countries like us. They're not as likely to attack us. And if there's a war, they're going to be on our side. So that's been the whole
yeah.
part of USAID is a soft power approach. We're pulling back. We're totally pulling back on that, which is only going to leave us with one form of power over all these countries in the Middle East or in Europe, South America, and that's going to be military power. If we want them to do something, we're going to have to force them with hard power, which is not
Mm,
it's not the whole anti-war president that Trump has been said to be. Oh, he's the anti-war
right.
president. He's only leaving himself that option at this point. On top of that, the European Union this week they're having all these meetings, and they said, "Hey," and I called this weeks ago, but they said, "Hey, we really need to start looking to China more as a partner because they're a more reliable partner." So basically, we can't rely on America to hold true to their treaties and whatever they agree to with us. So let's just start looking at China more. So that's the worst thing that could happen for us as America is that Europe turns to China. It's
Hmm.
officially starting. I think it was yesterday is when they came out and said that, and that's maybe they said it as a wake up call to Trump that hey, if you want to go through with this, we're going to go to China. I hope he hears it. That's all I
This
know.
is over the steel and aluminum
No, this was
tariff.
over a couple other things. Like Trump is
Okay.
Hegseth is over in Europe right now doing a couple different things. He's meeting with different European nations. Yeah, we're pretty much pulling back, which it's one of those things where Trump did say he wanted to do it. He wants to America first and pull back from all across the globe. Cool. If you want to do that, China is more than happy to take our spot at every table. Every country we leave, they're happy to slide into. And it looks like they're going to be the big winner in all this. Like of the first 3 weeks, what's happening? The biggest power shift ever has been that we are stepping back off the world stage and China is fully stepping into every spot we step back from. So
Great.
yeah, but
Great.
I don't know. It was painful to watch Joe Rogan today, and there was a couple weeks ago he was talking about the L.A. fires, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I saw this one thing where a homeless man started a fire, and they caught him, and he said he had like 6 cell phones and 5 credit cards and like a UN debit card." And as he
Where did
said
he
it,
find this at?
as he said it, he was like, Jamie, make sure that's true. And then Jamie looked and then it turned out it was not true at all. And Joe, he even said at one point, he goes, yeah, he goes, I probably shouldn't have trusted that. I saw it on the Twitter account was called like Texas Patriot Front or something like that. And it's like, so Joe sees something on a Twitter account like that, and he just says, yep,
Oh,
that's true. I'm going to repeat it on my podcast. And again, I
God.
don't think he's doing it maliciously. I just think he's in a bubble. A lot of people are in a bubble, like a lot. And I think he's just in a bubble, and
Yeah.
it hurts.
Well, speaking of America First, did you see they're starting to go after the Consumer Protection Agency? What is it?
The
Consumer
CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Financial.
They've been saying they're going to go after that for a while, and the winners there are Wall Street, banks, and Silicon Valley tech bros. Like Facebook tried a couple years ago to do like a Facebook Pay. They wanted to have some kind of a money
Hmm.
system on Facebook. Elon has been saying for like the last 2 years that he wants to do that on Twitter. Like and he just signed an agreement with Visa. Like he's getting ready to kick this off.
Ah,
If Facebook and Twitter and all that have some kind of a payment system, the company that would regulate them would be the CFPB. The
well,
CFPB, it basically protects us from predatory loans, excessive like overdraft fees, stuff like that. They are on the consumer's side. The only people that should hate them would be banks, Wall Street, and now like anybody who's planning on doing a payment thing, like PayPal, stuff like that. Um, That's who doesn't want the CFPB. I think, I can't remember the number, but it was like several billion dollars they've gotten back from the banks that goes to the consumers. If they get the money back, it doesn't go to them. They get it back for us and give it back to us. Um,
Right.
it was started in response to the 2008 like financial collapse. And the idea is that with them in power, we'll never have a system like that where the banks start like back then the banks were shorting the housing market, which is the shittiest thing you can think of. But there was no watchdog to look over them, and that's what the CFPB does. And Elon tweeted the other day, it just said CFPB-RIP, rest in peace. And it's like, oh, he's just he, him, Zuckerberg, Andreessen, every major Wall Street company will all be high-fiving if he manages to do that. And what's
Mhm.
sad, what's really sad about this is that most like MAGA supporters will also be high-fiving while at the same time not realizing that like that company protects them. But like they've
Yeah.
been brainwashed. Rogan had on like three guests in a row. It was Zuckerberg, Mark Andreessen, and one other billionaire just to shit all over the CFPB. Like it was coordinated. Like scary
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. That's where
yeah.
we're at. So
Well, apparently somebody was explaining that like there was the CFPP actually ruled like because banks before they ruled against this during the Biden administration, banks could like if you had $400 in your bank account and you had rent coming up and your cell phone bill. And you paid your cell phone bill first so that your rent would only be the only one that went in an overdraft fee. They would flip those two so that you got two overdraft fees, and the biggest one was going to be your thing. So then you ended up paying more.
So I think that's the Wells Fargo thing. And I've never banked at
I
Wells
think so
Fargo,
too.
but Wells Fargo apparently was just screwing people over forever. And the CFPB basically forced them to pay billions of dollars back, like pay back all the people they were ripping off. So
Yeah.
that was a big deal like 6, 7 years ago. I can't remember the specifics of it, but yeah, I think that's what that one was. So
Is that a lot long ago? Okay.
yeah, so I mean that's again the CFPB. Unless you're a Wall Street billionaire, you should really appreciate that the CFPB is there. But they're winning the information war. Like if you're just a common dude listening to right wing politics or right wing podcasts is more like it. Like you
Yeah.
automatically they're just like, oh yeah, the CFPB is trash, and it's like there's no way to explain it. Speaking of Elon, did you see the Elon and Trump press conference in the Oval Office? I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
interesting, wasn't it?
Where Trump was sitting down and Elon was standing with his child.
So, first thoughts. I think that they choreographed that because did you see where the cover of Time magazine that came out like in the last 4 or 5 days is
Elon was behind the Resolute.
yeah, it's Elon sitting in the Oval Office behind the Resolute desk. And I think Trump
Uh,
saw that and Trump was like, man, I need to make it clear who's in charge here. So we're going to do a press conference with me sitting behind the desk and Elon's going to stand beside me. And I think that he thought that would show everybody who really is in charge. But I think it had a total opposite effect because like Trump just sat there like, all right, tell him Elon. And when Elon did
yeah.
all the talking, Trump didn't seem to care or know what was going on. And to me, it gave me the impression that, oh man, like Elon really is like calling the shots here, and Trump's just like, yep, whatever Elon says goes. So I think it had an opposite effect of what he was going for there. I also think Elon totally brought his son in as a human shield. Kind of as a like they're not going to be that mean to me if I'm holding my baby thing. Like I think that was
Yeah.
strategic as hell. His I guess baby mama is Grimes.
Uh-huh.
Who is Grimes? I have no clue who Grimes
I
is.
think she's a musician, right?
I have no idea.
He's a
Anyhow,
musician of some sort. Yeah, I don't
Gr
know.
Grimes apparently came out in several places today and was like, "Hey, my son had no business being in that situation." She was mad that Elon took him into that environment in front of the cameras. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Either way, that was a very interesting little press conference though, because like Elon, he tried to put the best face on everything they're doing, but it just turned into it was just a lot of misinformation. I think the easiest one to like debunk because there was a lot of it where he's going on Twitter left and right now, going like, "Oh, $50 million for condoms in Gaza," and then it turns out that no, it's $50 million for condoms for the Gazan province of Mozambique, a different area, and it's not just condoms; it's all kinds of health, and it's to
Yeah.
prevent the spread of AIDS. But he goes online and just sprouts shit like that all the time. One of the things is he was saying with the Treasury, he's like, all we were trying to do is whenever a payment is made, we have to categorize it. So they have to put like a category code on the payment and say what it was for. That's all we're trying to do. And when he says that, if you're just watching, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like that, why aren't we doing that already? That totally makes sense. The problem is they had to go to court because a judge halted them at this. And at first, their first filing, they went to court and said, hey, all we're doing is trying to categorize things like we don't have access to any of this stuff. And then whoever was suing basically proved that yes, they do have access to all this sensitive information. So their response, their second filing, basically said, "Oh, our bad, we weren't aware. Yeah, no, we totally had access to read, write." The most sensitive material and admitted all, and they were swearing for like a week that no, 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 we're not doing that. And then they finally had to admit it in court that, oh, no, they totally were doing that. I think that
I love that
freezes.
he has these 19-year-old kids doing this,
Yep.
like
And
working
apparently,
under.
in that court filing, they said that the kid downloaded all this stuff to his personal computer. So he had like all
Hmm.
of the financial data from everybody in America on his laptop. Super. Yeah, that's
And
not
he
a
got
threat.
fired from another company for giving out their secrets to another company,
I
like
saw
a
that.
yeah, another company. Ah, this is weird and wild, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I just want to kind of like crawl under a rock and hide. What was that? That cruise ship that goes around the world for four
Yeah.
4 years?
You
That
should do
seems
it.
like
Yeah. I'll say this. Instead of getting on a cruise ship, me and you each mentioned this. For about 4 days, me and you were just out living life, having fun, not watching the news. And we both
uh-huh.
realized, like at the beginning of the fourth day, it's like, I haven't watched the news at all recently, and I'm like happy. I'm not even worried about what's happening in the world. And it's like
Yeah,
we could totally choose to just stop paying attention and just
that's
turn a
true.
blind eye to it, and we'd probably both would be mentally better off. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. I can't do it. I'm too much of a junkie for it. I got to keep watching it, but
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
the other quick points from Elon's press conference is they asked him directly about his conflicts of interest. He basically went in a roundabout way of saying that he's going to use the honor system. He's going to police himself. They asked him, 'cause he's in that Trump said he was going to have him go after the Pentagon. And they said, well, hey, you get all kinds of money from the Pentagon. And he said,
Uh,
however, he said he was like, well, he goes, if you're talking about SpaceX, like I can assure you that the contracts I have are the best value for the money possible. So like, take his word for it. Those contracts are good. Which it turns out, of all the contracts that they've stopped payment on, guess which one contract got paid out this week by the Pentagon?
oh no.
SpaceX. SpaceX got their payment on time. Everybody else got
Nobody else
frozen.
did? Oh,
From what I'm hearing, no. But yeah, SpaceX, they got their payment from the government. So
that's messed up. That's real messed up.
yeah, I'm trying to think. He said that they're being more transparent than any other government agency because everything they do, they're posting to the DOGE handle on Twitter. So I went on the DOGE handle on Twitter, and it's the biggest misinformation. It's like, oh, look at this, we're spending $30 million for sex change operations in the Philippines, or like, it's like, okay, hold on, show me some concrete shit to back that up. Like that's all I'm looking for. Show me which, and that to the heart of all this is him and Rogan and whoever else Trump all keep talking about how much fraud they're finding. You wouldn't believe how much fraud we're
Oh,
finding in USAID. It's not
yeah.
fraud, it's money being spent in a way that they don't want to spend. If it's for some kind of a liberal thing, you know how they
Well,
would fix.
didn't that Trump appointed judge like rule that exactly? Like it's not fraud. He said it in his statement. It's not fraud. It's money you don't want to spend, right?
He asked the government to please show any form of fraud, and they came back and said we have no proof of fraud. But the thing is, they'll put in a court filing, we have no proof of fraud, and then an hour later, Trump and Elon will go on social media or in front of cameras and say, "Oh, look at all this fraud," because they know it doesn't matter. They can lie. Um, and again,
Hmm.
when the new administration takes over, if USAID, who's working off the last president's budget, if you don't like the way they're spending their money, you get to do a new budget now, and you make sure that and they could easily do that. They could easily, but right now they're about to put together a reconciliation package. Part of that's going to be a new government budget. And they could cut all the funding for the things they don't like. And as long as they get enough votes in the House and the Senate, it passes. And that's the new priority of USAID. The problem is, like, they cut, like, one of the things they cut was money for NIH, for the National Institute of Health, for research into all this stuff. And like Alabama, believe it or not, was the state hit hardest by that. Alabama has two different like NIH research centers. One of them's at the University of Alabama, and like
Okay.
the majority of their all of their funding comes from USAID. So when they froze that, like it's hurting the state of Alabama now. So that Senator Katie Britt was on TV the other day talking about, well, some of these things actually are pretty good. It's like, well, no, of course, the one for your state you don't have a problem with.
Uh-huh.
So if they tried to cut it in the budget, every senator would step forward and say, whoa, 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 hold on, not this one. This one affects my state. And they wouldn't be able to cut all the things. So Elon doing it this way kind of takes it out of their hands, but the problem is it's supposed to be in their hands. Like that's the way our government was set up.
Mhm.
Republicans always talk about the Constitution and following the Constitution, but when it comes to stuff like this, they just disregard it. Like Congress has the power of the purse. Congress gets
Yep.
to put forth a budget.
Yeah.
It's very
Huh.
annoying. Yeah. So,
So I mean,
uh,
all this is all gonna go to court, and the judges are gonna say, "No, you can't do this, Eli," and then they're just gonna say, "Well, we're gonna do it anyway."
so Trump
Is that
did.
basically what's gonna happen?
JD Vance was the first, or I guess Russell Vought, the guy that wrote Project 2025 and is now the director of OM&B. He was the first one to suggest, like, just don't listen to the judges. Like, what can the judge do? Just don't listen. JD Vance picked that back up in the last week and has been saying that. But they asked Trump directly yesterday, I think it was, and Trump said, he said, no, I always follow the rulings. I'm going to appeal it, but I follow. And so far, he has followed all the rulings. And for the past 10
He
years,
always follows the rulings.
he bitches about them, but if there's a ruling, he appeals
Like
it.
like when the judge told him to stop talking. Like what was it?
Oh, that was, yeah. So
He
that's,
does not listen to the judges. He does not listen to the
yeah, so
judges.
in the New York hush money case, he didn't. They told him to stop doing all kinds of stuff, and he dared them to put him in prison, and
Uh-huh,
yeah,
basically. And they
and they
didn't.
weren't going to do that. So okay, take that one out. And that one he didn't. But over like as president, the first time around, when they tried to do the Muslim ban right off the bat, a judge said it was unconstitutional, so they withdrew it. They reworked it. They found a way to do it to where it would pass. So as president, he's always listening to judges. Now this was the first time they've kind of floated the idea. What if we just don't listen to the judges? And Trump now has said he will listen to, and his whole thing is, I think they know we're going to lose. We're going to lose every appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court, but all that matters is the Supreme Court. So that's what they're going for. Um,
Okay.
other thing, they did ask Eli. I can't Elon, but you keep calling him Eli, and it makes me want to call him Eli. They did ask Elon about the $50 million for condoms in Gaza, and he just said, hey, some of the stuff I say is going to be incorrect. Nobody bats 1,000, so yeah, I'm gonna say something's wrong, and just kind of it's like, well, but the problem is the president or the second most powerful guy in the world, but maybe you could make the argument that Elon's the most powerful. Like you should take a second and think about what you're about to say before you say
Yeah.
it. Because right now they're totally operating on, the whole shoot first, ask questions later type principle.
Mhm.
They're just like, let's cut first. And if it turns out that was a bad thing to cut, we'll fix it later. Just cut now. I would love it if they would have come in and said, hey, we're going to spend about a month evaluating all these programs. Then we're going to propose a bunch of cuts to Congress of what we think is wasteful. And then Congress voted. Like that's how this should have gone. And if they'd
Yeah.
done that and cut wasteful spending from the government, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. But the way they're doing it is just like cut everything and let's see who complains. And if they complain and they have a good reason, then we'll turn the funding back on. Kind of
Yeah.
weird way to do things. So
Yeah, this is bad.
yeah. Um, Elon, by the way, he's supposed to be going after the Pentagon next, which everybody's been saying
Good.
forever. Like right now, USAID is 1% of the federal budget. Okay. So, like, even if you cut all of USAID, you're not really making a dent in anything. The Pentagon is about a third of the national budget. So that's where you can make some big time cuts.
Hmm.
Having Elon do it kind of poses some problems because, again, he is the largest recipient of Pentagon money, like outside contractor that gets Pentagon money.
He's the largest?
That's what I read today. Maybe that's not right. I read that today.
Okay. Oh
He
wow. Like
he's
more
getting
than like Lockheed or Halliburton or
well, so they're not getting grants like subsidies. They're getting like we're buying stuff from Lockheed. It's a straight up
yeah.
trade. We'll take 5 F-35s for X amount of dollars. We're just
Uh-huh.
giving Elon money towards research for SpaceX. We're not buying anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, we're not buying anything from SpaceX. Every now and then they have helped us. Like right now, they're going to rescue the two astronauts that are stuck in the space station. But
This
like,
is completely making sense
yeah,
now. It's
he's
making a lot of sense.
every now and then he launches a satellite for us. Most of what he's launching
Yeah.
is for him. So yeah, so we're just giving him money towards his project of SpaceX. Yeah. And
Okay,
again, he's the one reviewing to see if these are good uses of our money. Something tells me he's going to determine that one. He's already said it. He said that it's the best use of our money we can get. So
sure,
super
sure.
awesome, right? Now let me see if there's anything else here.
Is he going to do the same thing with the Pentagon, where he just completely cuts it and sends all the troops home and everything, and then we'll start from scratch later?
I don't know. Well, the whole America First thing. Like if we're pulling back all of our aid, sooner or later, in fact, pretty quickly, these countries are going to be like, "Hey, you got a military base here, and you're not giving us aid anymore, so you need to get the f out." Is kind of what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
maybe that's part of the America First plan. Is why do we have all these military bases all around the world? I would
Hmm.
argue because they keep us safe. Um,
Yeah.
but maybe we're going to pull back and just defend our shores. I don't really know. Again, I think these are all terrible ideas, but maybe that's what America First means. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
This is so much fun, Andy.
the good news, the
Excited.
good news is, have you heard about what's happening in Israel and Gaza?
No, I don't
Oh
think so.
man, you're missing out. So remember how I told you a couple weeks ago that there's no way we were going to hit phase two of the agreement that they had?
Yeah.
Well, so phase two of the agreement was supposed to start here in like 2 or 3 weeks, and already it's almost officially off. Like we're not doing phase two at all. When Trump said we're going to take, or he said we were going to buy Gaza at first. I think he said buy. They've asked him to clarify that, and he is now saying no, we're not going to buy it. We're just going to. He kept saying we're just going to have it, and
Yeah.
they were asking him like, "What do you mean have it?" And finally, he said, "We're going to take it." Like he only said that once, and as soon as he said that, I guarantee you, somebody behind the camera was like, "Dude, like don't say take it," because then he corrected himself, but he just kept saying, "We're going to have it." Um, Anyhow, so we're going to have Gaza. The Palestinians do not like that. On top of that, it appears that for the last week, the Israelis have not been keeping up with their side of phase one.
Right.
Apparently, an
Saw that.
independent an independent body went in there and like basically tried to figure out what was going on. And apparently, I hate to say this, but the Palestinians are actually holding up to their part of phase one. Israel is flat out not. So,
Well, I mean, did you ever think they would? You can't.
eh, I was hoping. I was truly hoping. So.
Netanyahu holding up to his end of the bargain when it comes to Gazans?
Yeah, I guess you're
No,
right.
no.
So,
And I had no, yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Any
expect like I feel like if Trump would like force his hand to do it, maybe that would happen. But
I
Trump's
I
on
I,
his Trump's
I
on
think
his
that
side.
I was gonna
Basically,
say
Trump's like, we're gonna take Gaza. It's ours.
Trump and
Like,
Netanyahu are
thanks,
very
Netanyahu.
clearly, yeah, they're very clearly on the same side of this deal. So, Trump said because when he first said we're gonna have Gaza, the Palestinians were clearly like, well, then why are we gonna keep giving up our hostages? Like, we're not gonna if you're just gonna kick us out, we're not gonna keep doing this. And then Trump said that if they don't release all the hostages by Saturday, it was either Saturday at 10 a.m. or Saturday at noon. I can't remember the timeline, but if they don't release them all by then, all hell is gonna break loose, is what he said. Um, a lot of people have been saying this, but like there's not a lot left in the bag. Like Israel's already destroyed that place, so like what else can you do to them? Like a nuclear weapon? But I think Gaza's right next to all the rest of Israel, so you couldn't nuke it, so that's out of the question. So like what else is there? Like the only thing I could think escalation wise is that America, like the USA, starts bombing Gaza too. Like that's about the only way you could ramp things up from this point. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if suddenly like our drones or F-18s are dropping bombs over Gaza like Saturday afternoon. Just saying. It's very possible.
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. It's what we're dealing with.
I mean, and the Gazans can't go anywhere, right? They're just basically stuck there to take the
Um,
bomb,
yeah,
die.
they can't get out. All the borders are closed. We Israel was like, okay, everybody get out of the north side of Gaza, and they bombed the shit out of the north side. And they're like, all right, everybody move back to the north now, and then they bomb the shit out of the south. So maybe now we just don't move them first. Maybe we just that's the theory is we just start bombing right away. Um, so we'll see. All the Arab nations so far have said that they don't want any part of this if the Palestinians don't get to go back to their land. They said, oh, we could move them out while we rebuild, but then they get to go back. And Trump is
Mm,
saying, no, no, they cannot go back. So,
yeah.
yeah. So this is, I, I always go back to all the uncommitted voters, the Palestinian like Muslim voters that wouldn't vote for Harris because
Mhm.
they sat out the election because they were like, oh, Harris and Trump are pretty much the same. I know, like, yes, it was bad that Biden and Harris were giving Israel all these weapons, but I kept saying, I was like, if they weren't there, it'd be worse. Like, they'd be wiping them off the map and turning that place into a parking lot. It seems like that's fully where we're at this point. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Netanyahu released a video today, I think this morning, with his new. They already have an agreement that he said he's not following, and he has a new list of demands. And he didn't say what the demands were. Apparently, he gave those to the Palestinians, but he has a new list of demands that they have to meet ASAP, or else we're not moving forward to phase two. Which again, they've already said he's not meeting what we agreed upon yet, and now he's
Yeah.
wanting new stuff. So phase two is done. Like the starting Saturday at roughly 10 or noon, whatever time it was, the war is back on. Isn't that awesome?
This is great.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are we the bad guys?
it seems like it. It seems like we're trying to be like there was a period, it was, what was it, like 1500s through 1800s where Britain expanded their empire all across the globe. And like
Hmm.
it's funny because like Trump is doing the America first, pull everybody back type thing, but he's also like, I want to take over Canada and Greenland and Gaza and the Panama Canal. Like he wants to expand our footprint. He wants to make America larger, which screams like imperialism. But at the same time, he wants to retreat back to home. So it doesn't, it's kind of a strategy that doesn't jive. Like, I don't understand what he's trying to do here. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Interesting.
So the only other fun thing going on in the world right now is Trump and Putin spoke this morning about Ukraine. It was supposedly their first phone call. We know more about this phone call from the Russian side than we do from the U.S. side. Anytime that there's a two leaders talk, we release a readout of the call. And apparently, our readout was very short compared to Russia's readout, which was a lot. It was still, and
Oh.
we didn't want to have a lot of transparency, which that's weird that Russia was more transparent than us. Um,
Hmm.
they apparently just they agreed to start talking. They did some prisoner swaps, and Trump said after that that he wants, or that he said he's going to demand that Ukraine give him the rights to $500 billion worth of rare earth minerals in Ukraine to basically pay them back for all the money that we've sent. So far, we're on record as sending $177 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine. He wants 500 billion in minerals back. So, and then on top of that, Pete Hegseth is over there right now, and he said that the idea of returning to pre 2014 borders is not realistic. So there's going to be land lost in this, which I actually will say I agree with. And people got mad about that, but like the Crimean Peninsula is what they invaded in 2014. They've had that for 11 years now. Like at that point, that Russia's going to keep that. There's no scenario in this where Russia retreats and gives that back. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Now, all the other new land that they've taken in the last 2 or 3 years, I think they should get back. But I
Hmm.
don't think it's going to happen. I think no matter what, Russia's going to get bigger and Ukraine's going to get smaller if there's some kind of a deal worked out.
Hmm. This is
Yeah,
so stupid.
everything's stupid.
Why are we so dumb?
Yeah, this is
Well,
where
like
we're
as
at.
human beings, what are we doing? What are we doing as human beings?
I don't know.
I don't
I
get
I,
it.
I don't have a lot good to say. The court. I'm rooting for judges now. Is where we're at. The Republican Senate is not going to do anything. I said for a while that I thought the Republican Senate would hold him in check, and I've lost all faith in that. They are not going to do it. We are now down to judges, which apparently are a lot of Reagan, Bush, and Trump appointed judges that are ruling against him, which is kind of makes it awesome because he keeps trying to say, oh, they went judge shopping and got a liberal judge, and it's like, no, that's a judge you appointed in 2018, or Bush appointed, or whoever. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do.
we're gonna
The
be fine.
world is a vampire.
Yeah, we're gonna be fine. It's gonna be a world controlled by China, but maybe that won't be a bad thing. Like realistically, maybe that won't be a bad thing. China makes a lot of cool shit.
Yeah, but they have like limited access to internet. Is that what
Oh yeah, they're all about controlling the media, and it
it,
turns out that that's what our current administration is all about too. So it'll be fine. Like when you think about it, this will be totally fine. He
okay.
he kicked the Associated Press out of the Oval Office because they refused to call it the Gulf of America. So they're no, with the Associated Press, the AP, like that's like That's generic. Like you let them in. And no, they are
Yeah.
officially barred from the Oval Office now for refusing to call it the Gulf of America. So
I
just
mean, Google does.
yeah, which I saw Apple Maps still calls it the Gulf of Mexico. I checked this the
Oh,
other day.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Google call, which I saw. I'm gonna end on this 'cause it was funny, but a comedian was talking about like nobody wants to go to the Gulf of America. It doesn't sound tropical. Like oh, I went down to the Gulf of Mexico for a couple days. Like that sounds good. Like you don't want to go to the
Yeah.
Gulf of America. I thought that was he told it a lot better than me, but I thought that was quite funny. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're just sucking up land. I mean, we're killing people for like plots of dirt
We're not
that we
killing
all,
anybody yet. We're just not stepping in and stopping other countries from killing people.
and I mean, we're giving them weapons to kill them. So we're
Well,
kind of
it's a wash
killing.
because we're giving Israel weapons to kill Palestinians with, but we're also giving Ukraine weapons to defend themselves with. So it kind of evens out.
To kill, yeah, and I mean we're just killing Russians too. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
I don't
it's
feel bad for that when Russia started this, and I don't feel bad. And all the
yeah,
people that say that NATO provoked it, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I know the history of the conflict better than a lot of people, and I don't
it's
buy
still
that.
not good. It's still not good.
Yeah, no
None of this
good.
is good.
So
Yeah.
that's all I got for tonight, man. You got anything?
Oh, no, no, I have nothing else. I'm just gonna go to sleep now and
Okay, yeah. Sleep tight, buddy. Hopefully, we both don't get the flu as it is traveling around everywhere. So,
hmm.
Godspeed. All
Oh,
right.
God, be Godspeed later, man.
Get later, buddy.